April 6, 2017, started like any other Thursday morning in Lexington, Kentucky. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a warm glow of a quiet suburb where the Thompson family lived. But for Marcus Thompson, that morning would mark the beginning of an unrelenting nightmare. He was at work when his phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. On the line was a local sheriff's deputy. "Mr. Thompson," the voice said, calm but urgent. "There's been an incident at your home. We need you to come immediately." No further details. Just that, an incident. His thoughts spiraled. Was it a break-in? An accident? He tried calling his wife Lisa and his 14-year-old son, Ethan. No response. By the time Marcus pulled into his driveway, the entire street had transformed into a crime scene. Yellow tape fluttered in the wind. Police cruisers lined the curb. Neighbors watched in stunned silence. Inside the house, officers found Ethan seated at the kitchen table. His white t-shirt was drenched in blood. He wasn't crying. He wasn't shouting. He was just quiet. He looked up as they entered and said something that froze everyone in their tracks. "I killed her, but it wasn't me. It was Tyler." Deputies cautiously approached the teenager. He didn't resist. His face was pale, smeared with dried blood. But what struck the most wasn't the calm in his voice. It was a grotesque gash carved into his cheeks, extending his smile unnaturally from ear to ear. It was self-inflicted. Upstairs, in the master bedroom, lay the body of Lisa Thompson. She had been brutally attacked. More than 60 stab wounds covered her torso and arms. A single gunshot wound to the head had ultimately ended her life. There was blood everywhere, on the sheets, the walls, even the ceiling fan. The murder weapon, a kitchen knife, was embedded in her skull. The blade snapped in two. Back downstairs, Ethan repeated his confession to detectives. "I didn't do it," he said. "Tyler did. He lives in my head." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. The name Tyler meant nothing to investigators at first. But to Ethan, Tyler was everything. He claimed Tyler had shown up about 3 months before the murder, first as a whisper, then as a voice, then as something more. "He's stronger than me," Ethan told a psychiatrist during an early evaluation. "He's the one who gets angry. He's the one who wanted Lisa dead." When asked why Tyler hated Lisa, Ethan answered plainly, "She took everything from me." Tyler, it turned out, wasn't just a name. He was an identity, and one with a disturbing origin. Investigators found printed pages from a creepypasta story titled Jeff the Killer in Ethan's backpack. Jeff was a fictional serial killer known for his eerie smile and pale, lifeless face. Ethan's own disfigurement mirrored Jeff's grin, and when questioned, he admitted he wanted to look just like him. "I wanted to be scary," Ethan said, so Tyler could finally be real. Behind closed doors, the Thompson household was far from idyllic. Lisa, Ethan's stepmother, was known for her strictness. She frequently grounded Ethan, confiscated his phone, and limited his time on video games. Marcus, on the other hand, was more permissive. He often disagreed with Lisa's harsh discipline, which caused frequent tension between the adults and confusion for Ethan. Friends described Ethan as quiet, socially awkward, but harmless, yet there were signs. He kept a journal where he detailed violent dreams. He once handed a teacher a note that read, "Killing is a part of human nature. I just want to understand it." One classmate recalled him joking, "One day, I'll snap. Just wait." They all thought he was kidding. In hindsight, they were warnings, not jokes. The dreams were dark and recurring. Knives, fire, screams. In one entry, Ethan wrote, "Tyler says she doesn't deserve to breathe. Tyler says if I do it, I'll finally be free." His father never read the journals. Lisa had once. She called them disturbing and locked them away. That night, Ethan didn't speak to her at dinner. The next day, he didn't speak to anyone. Ethan was arrested and charged with the murder of Lisa Thompson. During the initial hearings, his defense attorney argued that Ethan suffered from dissociative identity disorder that he was not in control, that it was Tyler, the alter, who had committed the crime. But prosecutors weren't convinced. They pointed to premeditation, the note to his teacher, the journals, the text messages. They argued that Ethan had constructed the Tyler persona to avoid punishment, that he wasn't mentally ill, just calculating. Forensic experts were called in. They confirmed the cause of death, multiple stab wounds, and a gunshot. They also noted the strange smile-shaped wounds on Ethan's face, mirroring Jeff the Killer's terrifying grin. The imagery wasn't coincidental. They searched his room. Beneath his bed, they found drawings, hundreds of them, faces slashed open into eternal grins, stick figures holding knives. One depicted a boy kneeling before a towering black silhouette, written above it, Tyler Wakes. His internet history showed hours spent on horror forums, deep dives into violent fantasy, and online role-playing as Tyler. In private chat rooms, he had written things like, "Tyler wants out. Lisa keeps him locked up." Another said, "I think if I kill her, I'll finally be real." The trial drew national attention. Experts debated Ethan's mental state. Was this a case of severe mental illness, or the horrifying product of internet culture and adolescent rage? Prosecutors argued that Ethan was aware of his actions, that the creation of Tyler was theatrical, manipulative. The defense countered with testimonies from psychologists, suggesting that Ethan had suffered from trauma, emotional neglect, and possible did. A clinical psychologist testified that Ethan had signs of early psychosis. Another argued he was mimicking internet horror stories, not experiencing a true dissociative break. The prosecution pushed hard against the DID diagnosis, calling it a defense born from fiction. Ethan remained stoic throughout the trial. He rarely spoke, but when he did, it chilled the room. One day, the judge asked him if he felt remorse. Ethan stared forward, and in a voice much lower than usual, said, "Tyler doesn't feel anything." The jury deliberated for days. In 2018, Ethan Thompson was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. But the story wasn't over. In 2023, the Kentucky Supreme Court reviewed the case. They ruled that Ethan's trial had been fundamentally unfair. At 14, he had been tried as an adult. His age, emotional immaturity, and mental health struggles were not sufficiently considered. The conviction was overturned. Where Ethan is today remains a mystery. Some believe he is still in a juvenile psychiatric facility. Others claim he has been quietly released under supervision. The truth may be locked away, like Tyler himself. The tragedy of the Thompson family raises more questions than it answers. Was Ethan truly mentally ill, or was Tyler just a mask? Could this have been prevented if someone had paid closer attention to the warning signs? What role did internet horror culture play in shaping a disturbed young mind? One thing is certain. The line between fantasy and reality can blur dangerously for a vulnerable teenager. And when that line breaks, sometimes monsters get out. In the wake of the trial and its aftermath, the Lexington community was left fractured. Some believed Ethan had been a victim of mental illness, of negligent parenting, of a society that allowed horror to seep unchecked into a fragile young mind. Others saw only a cold-blooded killer who used a fictional persona as a scapegoat. Marcus Thompson withdrew from the public eye. He stopped speaking to reporters, moved to a different county. Some say he blamed himself for not seeing it sooner, for trusting too much in Ethan's silence, for not pushing back harder against Lisa's strictness or addressing the tension that had crept into their home. At Lisa's funeral, only a handful of people came. Her sister gave a quiet eulogy, describing Lisa as a woman who wanted the best for people around her, even when it came out wrong. Meanwhile, documents from Ethan's psychiatric evaluation surfaced. Some professionals concluded he suffered from a form of psychosis, triggered by identity confusion and emotional isolation. Others maintained that DID was never truly present, that it was a product of internet-fed delusion, not dissociation. In one chilling session, Ethan said, "Sometimes I still hear Tyler. He laughs. He says he's waiting." The Thompson case became a focal point in debates across the country about how the justice system should handle young offenders, especially those with questionable mental health diagnoses. Lawmakers cited the case when pushing for reform in how juvenile defendants are tried. New discussions emerge about digital content warnings and parental responsibility in the age of social media. But even as the case faded from headlines, it continued to ripple beneath the surface. In classrooms, in homes, and therapists' offices, Ethan's story became a warning, a myth, an urban legend in the making. Some say that in the halls of his old school, students still whisper about Tyler, that if you say his name 3 times, you can hear a laugh in the dark. Of course, that's just a story. But then again, so was Tyler, until he wasn't.